Hey guys, welcome back to Day-Today Chess. This is Sabina, and today I'm bringing you back a beautiful miniature of the 4th World Chess Champion Alexander-Alekhine, this time against Grigory-Levenfish, played in St. Petersburg in 1912. I think I have felt kind of bad because Alexander-Alekhine is one of my favorite world champions, and for the past week or so I've shown you 2 of his losses, and I didn't feel well about that because he's one of my favorites. So of course we have so much to learn from both winning and losses, but in the same time, we gotta give the Caesar what belongs to the Caesar, right? So I decided to stick to him for some time. Of course, we'll go to see other top chess players as well, but for the moment, let's just enjoy another brilliancy of his. Aside from that, I would like to make the announcement once again. Please, if you haven't done so yet, I am planning next week to analyze some of my audience's games. So please, if you have around 2000 USEF rating, make sure you send me an email here at foisors@yahoo.com. You can find this email in the description below the video as well. So make sure you send me an email with one of your best game or one of the games that you feel was very interesting and you would like to share it with everybody. Next week I'm going to pick some of the best ones and share them with you day to day, as you already got used to. If you have some friends who might be interested in sharing a game with me, make sure you let them know to subscribe to my YouTube channel and send me their game. Okay guys, so that's it for now. You have the video, the email address, I'm sorry, below the video, so I'm looking forward to your games. I haven't received anything just yet, but hopefully, if you guys help me spread the word, after all, it's a free game analysis, so why not? Why not give it a shot and see what you can learn? Anyways, let's check out Alekhine's game against Levenfish. He started d4 this time, and we have seen some other d4s as well of Alekhine's. c5, d5, knight f6, knight c3. So this basically is the old Benoni, because you can get this type of structure with the pawn in e4 already, or later white is going to play the pawn in e4. But the difference between a regular Benoni is that this pawn of white is not in c2 but in c4. This opening actually isn't that played anymore these days. People normally, after d4, play knight f6 first and c4, c5 if they want to play the Benoni, because having the pawn in c4 is actually good for black in a way, because he starts having these counterattack on the queen side with a6, b5, breaking basically white center in a way. And so what's the difference with the knight in c3 and not a pawn in c4? Well, this c4 square can actually be used by another piece. Instead of a pawn, white will be able to put a bishop in c4, or sometimes play knight f3, d2, c4, and then make sure that piece, whichever is going to be ensured there. And it's going to be a little bit harder for black to find a good plan. That's why this opening isn't really played as much these days. But of course, you know, everything is possible. We are very creative these days. With the help of the computers, probably everything, home analysis can be used later in a game. So, okay, not that well played, but still. Okay, so here Alekhine went for e4. Of course, he wants to strengthen his d5 pawn and show his space superiority in the center. g6 seems natural, right? Going towards a Benoni. And Alekhine went for the attack. He's known to have been a very dynamic and attacking player, so f4 seems to be his style, of course. And one of the main ideas with this f4 is, of course, to develop the knight behind the pawn and prepare to play e5. Some people will, maybe if you're more towards the beginner side and you see this f4, you're thinking, really, he played f4? Isn't he weakening this diagonal for when he's going to castle? What's gonna happen? Indeed, he is, but there are different ways you are looking at pawn structure. If the pawn structure is fixed, you have the opportunity of playing moves like f4 and going for the attack, because you know the position won't be getting opened very soon for your king to actually get in, be in trouble. But if the position is opened, moves like this you don't normally see. Maybe if it's a Sicilian you would see it, but other than that, not that much. So because we have a fixed structure, right, this pawn in d5 is kind of blocked, and even if e6 is going to be played, black can capture in d5, will capture back with the pawn, so the position still remains quite closed. In those type of positions, it is fine to make some weaknesses on the side where you're going to castle, but be cautious about it. Don't over weaken your position. This is safe as long as you're going to be preparing to play knight f3 next. And here Levenfish didn't choose the best move in my opinion. He went for knight bd7, and normally, of course, if you're thinking about the chess classics, you know that you're developing the knights before the bishops, because for the knights it's quite clear where you want to develop them. But the problem in this position is that this knight doesn't necessarily stay on its best position in d7. This knight can also be developed via a6, c7, and then help the push of e6, maybe help the push of b5. How do you know that this 7 is the best square? So bishop g7 is the move that I'd recommend. If you're going to be playing this with black, make sure you develop your bishop first and hang on with your knight, in b8. Maybe you will develop it the other way around. Also keep this d7 square. Sometimes actually this knight from f6 goes to d7. For example, if here white gives bishop b5 check, black sometimes can even go knight f to d7 to kind of stop for the moment white to play e5. So, and then of course black is going to prepare some a6, b5. This is basically what I would recommend if you would like to play this type of opening. Levenfish, however, as I said, he played knight bd7, which is not the best choice, allowing white to develop the knight in f3, and now I'm going to prepare to play e5, and it's not very clear where your knight is gonna go. And even if you have a square for the knight after I play e5, there are ideas to play e6 as well, and you're going to see them in the game later on also. This e5, e6 idea is very typical for, let's say, Pirc and Benoni type positions. a6, again, maybe not the best choice for black, because he's really hanging on too much with his king in the center. You might be thinking that I'm talking too much about the castle and finishing the development, but indeed, in most of the times, it's very, very important, and it can lead to you actually losing the game if you remain with the king in the center. If you would play here bishop g7, this might be a safer choice. e5 is still possible though, and here if you take knight g4, e6 is something that white has tried. And after takes, maybe knight d2 e5. Black doesn't have that comfortable of a position, but still it feels like it's kind of alright. But okay, Levenfish didn't want to finish up his development that way. He wanted to go a6, of course, with the idea to prepare b5. And Alekhine still played e5. Very typical, as I told you. Takes, knight g4, e6. And here Levenfish didn't capture in e6. He went directly knight d2 e5. But you see, had he not developed his knight in d7, now he wouldn't have to worry about this e6, because obviously he could have just taken the pawn, and white wouldn't have played e6 in this position. Also, maybe white wouldn't have even played e5 in this position, because you normally play e5 when you're sure what you want to do next. If you're not sure how you're going to hang on to your pawns in the center, you're not going to push the pawns too much. White also is not fully developed. He's actually halfway, not even halfway developed. So he would normally not go e5, e6 unless he had seen some clear ideas, and most likely Alekhine had seen clear ideas here. After knight e5, he played bishop f4. A nice developing move, keeping this knight attacked so that there will be some h3 threat later. I think h3 immediately would have worked just as nicely, because if you take, and you have to, because if you move the knight, you lose your knight in e5. So after you take in f3, simply queen takes f3, and then if you play knight e5, I think I can play maybe queen e4, take your knight, bishop g7, bishop f4 as well. And then, seriously, where are you planning on moving the knight? F5 is not going to help you very much, because I'm simply moving the queen, and then your knight is in jeopardy. Queen c7, okay, castle. This knight basically is just stuck in the middle of the board, and it's a very tough position for black. White is probably super winning here. H3, sorry, probably was a better choice by Alekhine, but he chose bishop f4, which is still a very good move, developing move. Knight takes f3, of course, what you do. He captured with a pawn. I would have really preferred with the queen to kind of get the same position as I showed you earlier. Now, if you're thinking of giving away your knight, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to hurry to take the knight, although I could, but I don't want to allow this e5. So maybe I'll just take in e6. And, you know, knight f6 is not really that great, because I have this beautiful knight b5. Little threat, and if you take my knight, obviously I take back, and then I'm going to win in d7 material, and b7 is hanging as well. So queen f3 was definitely a better capture here for white. Alekhine, however, took with the pawn, which gave black some ideas of trying to get back on track with the position. Knight f6 putting some pressure here. Bishop c4, of course, to defend this nice chain of pawns. And here f takes e6, d takes e6, queen b6. And it seems like black basically escaped, because although you have this super strong pawn in e6, I can probably finish up my development. Bishop g7, castle, and you know, you won't be attacking me that easily anymore. And so probably with g takes f3, white kind of lost a little bit of his advantage, but he's still better. I mean, with this pawn in e6, how can he not be better? So Alekhine finished his development, and here to a normal play, white probably would have still won, but like let's say bishop g7, probably I would do long castle, and then if you do short castle, I have maybe this crazy idea, bishop d6, because you can't take because of e7 check. Of course, you have this rook e8. And then probably I'd have to go back to g3. So I kind of want to move. I put your rook on a bad square. I improve the position of my bishop. So now I keep these f4, f5 ideas to open up the g file. And white is so much better here. But instead of bishop g7, the normal developing thing, that's why you guys have to be very careful about your development. Levenfish went for the pawn, kind of like the game we saw yesterday. So queen takes b2. Please take a moment, pause the video, and try to find the beautiful finish Alekhine found in this position. Okay, so I suppose you're back. Here it is. Such a glorious move. Knight b5, threatening some knight c7. Of course, if you take, I simply take back, and then you know you can't play king d8 because of rook d1. And if you give me your bishop, okay, you gave me your bishop. King d8, I don't even know. Bishop e5 is winning here. So Levenfish captured the rook in a1, king f2. He went for the other rook as well. And make sure you pause the video and find the mate. Check, check, bishop d7 only move, e takes d7, and Levenfish resigned in this position. Mate is coming up, and there's really no way for black to stop that. Also, we have some ideas, maybe bishop e6, queen a5 as well. So in this position, Levenfish resigned. I hope you enjoyed this game. Stay tuned for more.